Roger.
Yep.
All right. Well, let
I'm
me
gonna
move.
mute
I'm going to
everybody.
move
You
stuff
may have
out
to
of the
unmute
way.
yourself, Eli. Hold on a second.
Oh, okay.
Unmute yourself, Eli.
Okay. We're good. Awesome. Ready to go? Let's have some fun here. So first and foremost, thank you, Tim, for letting me come hang out with you guys today. This is going to be a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun with this stuff, and I do like interactive. So obviously stay muted so there's no background noise and stuff like that. But if you have a question, stop and ask. I'm much better in a dialogue conversation than just spouting off a bunch of information, because nobody wants to hear me yabber for an hour. Well, let's talk about a couple of really cool things with this. First and foremost, let's see. What if you could build a system that will follow up with your prospects, turn clients into raving fans, and increase your sales for business? What if I told you that you could set that up as a set up and forget it machine that works 24/7, 365? How does that sound? What do you think of that? Because guess what? The technology is here. The technology, most of you already have it. Now, we're talking about your CRM system, your email systems, whether you're using, we were having a conversation earlier about Infusionsoft or Keep, ActiveCampaign, Kartra, GrooveFunnels. There's all these different platforms that are out there, and everybody has these platforms. The cool thing is that most of them do amazing things that we really don't know about. And this is what I actually do for my business, is what we do for our clients, what we help people out. We've been doing this for ourselves for 16 years. We've been doing this for our clients for about 13. And the biggest reason for that was because when I first got started, I started as a speaker, got out there, started doing speaking gigs, meeting a lot of people, having a lot of fun. I would speak, I would close maybe 10% of the room, which is kind of normal. And the first thing I think is, everybody else is like, this is awesome. And I'm like, it is, but what about those other 90% of the room? What about those other people? And so I started building systems for myself behind the scenes to stay in touch and follow up with them long-term. Next thing I know, other speakers are coming to me going, I see what you're doing there. Who's your guy? Who's doing this for you? And I just kind of raised my hands like, well, we're actually doing it. They're like, cool, here's my credit card. How much? And that actually started an entire division of our business. That's what we've done for years. And what I did in the last couple of years is I packaged this process and this methodology up to help people put this in their own systems that would work forever. And what I mean by this is we're meaning to build an evergreen system that'll work for years, even decades. And when I mean decades, I am not joking. Back in September, about middle of September this year, I had somebody who replied to an email that I sent him. And he says, hey, Eli, I've been on your list for a couple of years now. Thank you so much for all the help you've had. You helped me grow my business for so well that I just couldn't have done it without you. My son is starting a construction company, and I'm wondering if you might be able to help us with some marketing stuff. And so it started a whole dialogue with him. But I ended up going, okay, what does quote unquote a couple of years mean? And so I went back to my CRM system because I track everything. And he had seen me speak at a SCORE event. Now, if you're not familiar with SCORE, SCORE is the Service Corps of Retired Executives. Basically, it's a nonprofit organization that's designed for executives who retire and help newer small businesses, give them advice on how they can grow the business, but everything from marketing to business plans, all that kind of stuff. Reality is most of the time it's the executives that retired, and then they're home for about a week before their wives say, okay, you're driving me nuts, get the hell out. And they go work for the organization, have volunteer their time to help other businesses. Well, I was actually a trainer for SCORE for years, and I was doing an event, and this gentleman had seen me speak at the SCORE event, July 3rd, 2010. 10 years and 3 months later, he is reaching out to me to help his son's business grow. Pretty cool, right? That's the kind of stuff we're talking about. We need to stop thinking of businesses as transaction. Our clients are not the customers that are transactional. We need them to treat them as clients that are going to be around forever. And when you do that, it completely changes your business. I have now survived 3 different economic downturns because of the fact that I built these kind of systems in place. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. It kind of sets the stage for everything here. So close all distractions. It's my normal thing with here. Couple of big, quick little things about me. I've been in business for over 25 years. I spent the last decade spending building evergreen campaigns for clients. I have campaigns that have, I mean, I don't even know how many years they've ran. I have one that I built back in 2013, and it still runs today. That is all the same campaign, haven't touched it. So we've helped our clients quit doing all the manual stuff. If you're manually sending out a newsletter, you're working too hard. Build a system that runs automatically. We've also worked with people like John Lee Dumas, Entrepreneur on Fire, Amy Porterfield, James Wedmore, along with hundreds of others. And I go back to my running joke. I have personally designed my own campaign, runs for 3 years automatically. It has done some amazing stuff for me, and we love helping other clients do the same thing. More importantly than all of that stuff is that this gives me the time and the freedom to do what I love, which is to meet cool people. You saw this on above my head on my video. Meet cool people is my thing. This started a couple of years ago when I was actually still speaking, traveling all over the country. And people would actually say, so what is it that brings you out over here other than just the speaking? Because one of the things is, you know, you go around a room and a lot of times in smaller events, they'll say, what do you want to get out of the next couple of days? And they would do that to the speakers, or they do that to the audience. And then they would also do it to the speakers. Now, if I were to say, you know, I come across the country so I can speak on stage and sell you my stuff, that's not really very appealing. So, I mean, that's the first thing I thought of. I was like, that's not actually why I'm here. And I told people, I'm like, honestly, I come all the way across the country in order to hang out, have a good time, and meet cool people. And it became a thing. And since then, it's taken off, had a life of its own. We actually have a weekly networking event that we run. We've run it almost every week for the last year and a half almost. Basically, we started it when COVID took over. And it is basically where entrepreneurs come to hang out, have a good time. We always say, come in with whatever problems you have. If you have a question, you need a connection, you just need to bitch about the week, that's perfectly fine. By the way, colorful drinks are encouraged. We come have a good time. And that group is still around. As a matter of fact, these people, this picture was actually taken towards the very beginning. Most of those people are still coming every single week with us. And the cool thing about it is this is what I get to do while my business just runs around me because the automation is in place. Okay. And I am keeping I'm kind of looking over here at the side. This is where my second monitor is, so I can see the chat. So that way I can kind of see if there's any questions. Okay, this is a big one because, you know, we actually, we were talking before we started the presentation, and Lisa was asking me about what software do you use? And the reality is it's not about what software you use. It's about how you use the software. Write that down, because the software is what hangs out so many people. I see people all the time jumping on the latest, greatest thing that comes out because it's been told that that's the killer that's going to kill the other thing. I mean, just to, you know, to throw one out there, most of you've heard of Infusionsoft. I cannot count of how many software companies have come out calling themselves the Infusionsoft killer. I mean, reality is it doesn't matter what software you use, as long as the software will do the basic stuff, but it's how you use the software. I have people who come to me and say, I was using XYZ software, I hate it, it just didn't work, yada, yada, yada. And they never took the time to actually set it up. I am an old school Infusionsoft user. We've actually switched to Keep, which is based on the same platform, but it's a newer interface. It's actually kind of cool. It's taken some time for them to get it where it needs to be, and it's getting to where I actually like it now. But reality is, I've seen people talk about how much money they have wasted with that software, while I'm sitting there at the exact same time saying, it does the job of 2 full-time employees for me. It costs me less than $300 a month. Where in the world are you getting 2 full-time employees for that cheap? You can't get them anywhere that cheap. You can get them for cheap, but not that cheap. It doesn't call in sick. It doesn't have a computer breakdown and cause a typhoon where you can't reach them for multiple days. It's just there. Yes, it's software. They have glitches. Things happen, but it's nowhere like dealing with a human. It just works. And like I said, mine does the work of 2 full-time employees to me every single month, which is pretty cool. But it's all about how you set it up. That's the key with this. Setting up is the most important part. All right. So I'm just kind of looking at here, just making sure everything looks good. All right. So speaking of entrepreneurs, I'm going to bring up one of my pups, Dante. He is my spaz. He is named Dante for a reason. If you're familiar with Dante's Inferno, he is a freak. But one of the things that Dante loves is his ball. And the fun thing is, if you've got a dog, how many, raise your hand. Any of you have dogs that love their ball? Do me that. Okay. There's a couple of people in there. Okay. So if you've ever had the most fun in the world, what you do is you get 4 or 5 different balls and try and see what happens. You take one and you just toss it at them. And then you take another one and toss them at them. Take another one and toss them at them. They will freak out because they don't know which one they want. This is your typical entrepreneur in software. This is what happens. They bounce from thing to thing to thing to thing, and they don't know what to do with it. When I see that happening, the first thing I think of is Dante. I love him to death, but he is a freak. But what we do, we do that all the time. And so we need to get you away from that mindset. What you have will probably do what you need. You don't need to switch. If you have, and this is an open invitation, if you have a platinum platform and you are considering another one, I'm happy to have a talk with you and give you my 2 cents worth. I played with most of them. And I will give you an honest opinion. There are some, I have a lot of people that I do switch over to Infusionsoft or Keep or whatever. And there's a lot of people that come to me and I'm like, you know what? You're actually fine where you are. Here's the advantages you would get over there. But honestly, you got so much set up over here. I'm not going to even recommend you switch. So always know, I will be honest with you. If I think it's a good fit, I will tell you. If I don't think it's a good fit, I will tell you that as well. And that's just an open invitation. Just feel free, reach out to me, connect with me, ask the questions. I'm happy to answer. So let's talk about how automation can help, because I want you to think automating anything and everything you can. I go by one major thing in my life. Is actually going to be the title of my next book. It is Entrepreneur ADD. Automate, delegate, and delete. Automate everything you can. Delegate the things you can't. And delete the crap you probably shouldn't be doing anyway. Your business will be massively more efficient. It will be more streamlined. It will work better. And you will turn around and go, is business actually this easy? I have found when I started putting this kind of stuff in place, I actually questioned myself because things were too easy. I was shocked. I was confused. With clients that come to me, the biggest thing that I have to do is tell them to stop messing with stuff. It's already taken care of. I literally had one client that I had to basically lock them out of their own app because they kept trying to do stuff that was already done. And I'm like, no, you don't need to. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't touch that. It's already done. It works. Don't break what's not broken, or don't try to fix what's not broken. So let's talk about what automation is not. It's not clicking a button and never talking to your customers. The idea is to use automation so you have time to comfortably and have a good conversation with your customers, because relationships are the key to a good business. It's not about making your money without ever having a real, or making millions without having a real relationship with real people. That's just, it just doesn't work that way. Okay. But what automation is, way to leverage your time and get more done, scale and grow your business without the huge expenses of traditional companies that have had in the past. You can live anywhere. Your employees can be completely virtual from anywhere in the world. And the mass majority of it, you don't need a big staff because automation takes care of so much of it. It creates a more consistent communication with prospects and clients. This is a big one. If you ever get in a situation where one client gets all these cool things, maybe it's a good conversation, maybe you've given them some extra bonuses, but then the next one you forgot about, you're putting out an inconsistent message. Now, here's reality. Human beings, we make mistakes. We drop the ball. We get busy. You're going to do that. Use the tools and technology you have to eliminate that as much as possible. Pull yourself out of that picture and let the technology do it for you. And the most important thing I want you to think about, if you were to get hit by a bus today, what would happen? What would happen to your business? Would it stop? Because if the answer is yes, then you've got a problem. Now, I'm not saying that you're giving up everything. Some of you are coaches where, I mean, I coach people in a one-on-one and group situations, but you want to make sure that obviously certain things will have to adjust, but you don't want everything to stop completely. And I've had that happen before. That's where this stuff really hit home for me. And I want to share with you just, this is an example of the kind of stuff that we do with clients. I want you to map out your flow, big picture. This is what I call the ultimate follow-up system. This campaign alone is designed, and you'll notice it has different steps. And obviously some of it's blurred out. It's blurred out on purpose. Our actual clients get the one that doesn't have all the blurred out, and it gives more specifics and templates and all that kind of fun stuff as well. But the idea is you look at these follow-up processes. When somebody comes into your system, you're going to recommend maybe a book. I mean, how many of you read? Raise your hand if you're a reader. Okay. So if you're a reader, here's a great example. I keep this book right here because I talk about it all the time. The Go-Giver by Bob Burg. If you haven't read it, it's an awesome book. Go pick it up. It is also an easy read. Okay. So you could read it today or this weekend and have it done in a couple hours. It's an amazing read. It's written in a parable format. So it's easy to get some fun with it, but it's an amazing story on building relationships. Now, if I come to you with that book and say, this book is awesome. So I just did this with you, by the way. I said, this book is awesome. You need to go pick it up and read it. Read it this weekend. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to go pick it up. I want you to read it. And then I want you to email me on Monday and tell me what you thought of it. Because I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you got an email with that, how would you feel about that? Would you feel like I was pitching you anything? Would you feel like I only wanted your money? No. You would feel like I was giving you value. Now, by the way, if you do this with your own book, it doesn't work. Because it doesn't matter how much your book costs. You could be selling it for 99 cents on Amazon. It's still your book and you're pitching you. It loses the credibility for the relationship side. So that's just one example. Books, tips, checking in. I just send an email out. Say, hey, I just want to check in, see how you're doing. What's up? And let people respond. It opened up a dialogue with people. Now, again, this whole thing, the email going out is automated. You don't touch it. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to remember it. But when they reply, now you have a conversation with them. You're opening up a dialogue, which opens up a conversation that could turn into a sales conversation. Okay. Is this making sense so far? Kind of shake your heads, do the bobblehead thing. All right, cool. So these are some ideas for you. And what I'm saying here is you put out a lot of great content in direct communication, adding value that has nothing to do with you specifically. So when you do actually make an offer to people, which you do, they're more likely to open up your emails and pay attention. If you want to text somebody, you can text them and have a conversation as you sending them a quick message, as opposed to you always sending them a pitch. Because I'm sure you've all seen this, where there's people that literally all they ever send you is a pitch. Every week, sometimes every day, they're selling you something new. You know, we call that the pitch pirate. They only email you when they're after your booty. Get away from that. Don't be that person. Okay. So let's talk about what else automation does. Automation frees you up to do what you do best and what you love to do. For a lot of you, it's probably working with your clients. That is for me. I love when I actually get to work with my clients and see the results and give them the strategies and see the light bulb kick on. Or for me to speak on stage, whether it be virtual like we're doing today or in person. Mostly for me, my favorite thing is to meet cool people. Like we talked about that. When I speak at an event, honestly, I speak on stage, we have a good conversation, then people come up to me afterwards. We have a conversation there where I get to know you a little bit better. And most likely, unless you drive me completely nuts, I'm going to say, you know what? I'm getting some people together. Why don't you join us for dinner tonight? That's my favorite thing to do. I will get 10 or 15 people together and we'll go have dinner someplace, have a couple of drinks, some good food, great conversation, get some laughs in. There's no better way in the world to get to know somebody and see if you can actually help them and build relationship with that person than over breaking bread. Now, obviously, we can't do that as much right now. I can't wait for the time I can get back to that. But the automation does all the stuff behind the scenes so that can do its thing. So now let's get into the campaigns. As we're going through, I'm going to just take a quick look real quick. If you got any questions so far, feel free to pop it into the chat just before we move on. Let's see. Okay, cool. All righty. So campaign number 1, lead engagement. Now, you've all had these. You call them lead magnets. You can call them your freebie. They can come in the form of a book. They can come in the form of a video training, a webinar, a video series. There's a ton of different ways you can do this. You can do this. The biggest thing is everybody needs to have something like this of some sort. For me, I have what I call the networking follow-up blueprint. The follow-up blueprint is my staple. I give it to everybody. They can check it out. I'll give you the link at the end with that. But there's, that is your way to collect people's information and say, I think I like you. Let me test the waters and see if you are a cool person or not. Okay. That's what your lead magnet does. But this is where people go a little bit wrong, because you need to first think about what's the goal of your lead magnet. What is the goal of your lead magnet? First and foremost, get them the stuff you promised them. I cannot count the number of times somebody has said, I have this thing. This is what you need to do to get it. I did the thing and I never got it. Even if it's a technology glitch, you got to make sure your technology works. And yes, things do break. I'm a technology geek and I see stuff break literally every week. If something breaks, fix it as soon as possible. Pay attention to that kind of stuff, but you've got to make sure you get them their stuff. The second thing, get them engaged. This is where people go off the boat. And I'll share this the next thing. You need to get them engaged with the thing. If I give you a checklist and you don't read the checklist, you got no value out of it. You didn't see how awesome I am. Therefore, I got no value out of it either. Because that then did not convince you to do business with me. And that's really the point of a lead magnet, is to get them to take action. That action could be book a call with you. It could be get my $47 course, or it could be sign up for my coaching mentorship program. Everybody has different types of programs. I tend to be more of a high ticket kind of guy. So mine is, let's talk. I want to see if I can help you. If I think I can help you, I'll invite you to join one of my programs. But these 3 things are in a specific order for a very specific reason, because most people do this backwards. They actually get them to immediately, as soon as they download the thing, go to the next step. Reality is, you haven't earned that yet. Most of the time, they don't trust you yet. Build the trust a little bit. Now, that doesn't mean that, like, to say you send the email, you could do a little PS on there that says, hey, you know what? If you just want to skip to the front of the line and have a conversation, here's how you can book a strategy session with me. That's actually not a bad way to do it. But don't make that the entire point. Most people will say, here's your email, and says, here's how you can download the thing, and you definitely need to book a call with me. Here's how you do that. First and foremost, you gave them 2 actions. If any of you studied direct marketing, you know 1 call to action. Give them 1 thing to do. You give them 2, they get confused. There's a Dan Kennedy, old school, mean old Dan. I think his rule of thumb was you never have more than 3 choices in anything in the world. This is why you always have your good, better, best when it comes to products. Because if you had a 4th product, nobody could make a decision and everybody would die. That's the movie theater thing. If you ever look at a movie theater, they usually do not have more than 3 exits. And that's where this comes into play. Get them to do 1 thing at a time. First thing should be download the thing or watch the thing. Second thing, then is to take action, take that next step. But don't lead the gate with that. When you do, you lose credibility. Is this making sense so far? Do the head bob? We good? All right. So I'm going to share some ideas of how this stuff works when you do it right. Building good conversations and a good follow-up process to get them to pay attention. David Saxby came to me, his very first webinar. He'd always done webinar trainings, but he did them as to train people on the business itself, on basically his sales training. Oh, we got somebody who's unmuted here. Let's see if we can mute them. There you go. Okay. Okay. So David Saxby, when his whole thing is sales training, and he had always done webinars as his training, but he'd never done it as a lead gen, as a way to get new clients kind of situation. So he came to us, we helped him set it up. His very first event, he had 94 people registered and 91 showed up. That's unheard of. And I credit this to the way we communicate with people. We got those people excited about showing up. They did not come into it expecting him to pitch them. It wasn't a 90-minute sales pitch. It was a good, solid training. We gave them some little nuggets to feed them along the way before the actual event. And those people showed up. They were excited. 12 people booked calls to talk to him. Those numbers are phenomenal. I will do my FTC disclosure. The fact that that is not typical. We usually don't get that good of numbers, but we get some pretty good numbers. Definitely above average by far, like double and triple above average. But this is the kind of stuff that if you do it right, the language makes a difference. Don't make it about selling all the time. Make it about building the relationship, showing what the value is, get them to get a taste of how amazing you are. So when you do make the offer, it's a no-brainer for them. Okay. Second type of campaign, client engagement. I like to say the AKA, get them to actually do the stuff. How many of you have ever had clients that give you a nice chunk of change to sign up for your program and they never even logged in? Yeah, I was there before. As a matter of fact, I had one client early on when I was still really new and I hadn't even developed all this stuff yet. I had a client who I had what we call everything but the kitchen sink sale. And I sold my entire program selection, which was like 12 different training programs. They got a screaming deal, but it was a significant chunk of change. And I find out like 2 months later that one of them had never even logged in. Like never. Like at least when I buy something, I at least log in, look at it before I forget about it. They never even logged in. And they'd been getting the emails. I mean, my tracking showed they were getting them, they were opening them, but they never did anything. That's when I realized that I had to fix this. That was something that we had to change very, very quickly. You've got to get them engaged, because if you don't get them engaged, number one, you get potential refunds. And two, they don't refer other people because they never got the results. Doesn't matter how amazing your program is. If they don't get results, they're not going to refer other people. Not in most situations. So how do we create amazing clients? First thing, make sure it's super easy that they know what their login information is. What I like to do is send one email. So I know some of you are using different platforms for different things. I will send one welcome email that says, here's what to expect. And this is a very kick them right out of the gate. It has their login information, says what to expect from me. This is going to be important. And what's expected of them. Set the stage early. I'm going to do this for you, but for you to get the results, you have to do this for me in order to make sure it works. That changes the game. It really does. Because then you get those people that wouldn't have paid a whole lot of attention that are like, oh yeah, I'm now accountable. And they actually will spend more time actually doing the stuff. Okay. And then checking in with them. Check in fairly regularly. By the way, this can be automated and it can be a simple email in your autoresponder sequence that literally just says like middle of the week. Maybe you send an email on Monday, maybe you have a call on Friday, however you set it up. Maybe in the middle of the week, every once in a while, every 2 or 3 weeks, just send them an email and say, hey, I just want to check in, see how you're doing. Do you have any questions that haven't been covered already? That's the entire email. Don't do any fancy graphics. Don't try to add anything else to it. It's literally like 3 sentences. Make it look like you just opened up Gmail, popped it in and said, you know what? Hey there, Lisa hasn't checked in for a bit. I just want to check in with her. Let's see how she's doing. Let me email her real quick. Hey, Lisa, how's it going? Just want to see how you're doing. That's it. Is this good? It's making sense so far? Because this stuff is so powerful. It's not complicated, but it's powerful. Okay. And keep them engaged. Ask questions. When I send messages out to my clients and I say, here's what you should be working on. Here's what's going on. By the way, what did you think of this? And I catch one little nugget out of the training and get them to respond back. That's an open loop. If you ask the question, they want to answer it, but don't do rhetorical questions. Don't do the ones that are like, just tell, so how's it going? That's a separate email. We talked about that. But in this one, grab a nugget out of your training and say, what did you think of this? Let me know. Get them to reply back to you. It changes the game because they actually feel like you care about them and that you want them to succeed and that they made a good choice in you because you are staying in touch with them. Okay. And then what's next? If you follow all these other steps, when somebody goes through any program that you have, whether it be a do-it-yourself course, a coaching program, maybe you got a 6-week coaching program or whatever it is, what's next? What's that next product, the next program? What's the next step? You put that in, keep that in mind. Think about that down the road. Again, that's where I have that automation and thinking long game. I've been in business for over 25 years for a reason, because I'm thinking 5 and 10 years out. I'm not thinking next week. One of my actually wasn't, he was my first mentor in the internet marketing space, a guy by the name of Armin Morin. He's like grandfather of the internet marketing world. And the thing that I learned from him, which goes into all the stuff we're talking about today, and this is my entire business is based off of this, 3 words, write this down. Next logical step. Next logical step. Always be thinking about the relationship in what's the next step. They do this, what's the next step? And think it through and think it through and just keep going, keep asking that question. You're going to get amazing results when you start doing that and thinking long-term. And we talk about a re-engage campaign. Jacqueline and Jace came to us and they're actually Infusionsoft users. They'd been using Infusionsoft for a while. Well, okay, let me rephrase that. They've been paying Infusionsoft for a couple of years. They weren't really using it very well. They had a database, but they weren't doing anything with it. And so one of the very first things that we did for them was, if you're in the insurance space, once a year, they have open enrollment where they can actually change their policies and all that kind of stuff. And this was a big deal for them. They had been manually sending letters for years. And we're like, no. Let's use the tools so you were already paying for. So we created a campaign for them. It was a 3 email campaign to book a call. So not only do we use an email campaign, but we also set up an automated, like a calendar booking system. Okay. And it doesn't matter what software you use for that. There's a lot of them. Acuity, Schedule Once, Keep even has one in there now. There's a ton of them that are out there. But they had never really used it before. They had it, but they never really used it. They never really tried it. And so we set it up. And the fun thing about this was literally 2 days after the first email went out, I get a call from Jacqueline saying, Eli, we have to stop the campaign. I'm booked. I can't take any more calls. We have to push them out. And I'm like, really? And I go in, and I'd actually had some updates I needed to do in her calendar anyway, into the software. And I looked, she was booked solid for the following 3 weeks. Like there were no openings on her calendar because we had this set up to basically just say, hey, I hope you've been doing awesome. We care about you. This is what's going on. It's open enrollment. We want to make sure you're getting the best coverage available for the price. We might be able to actually even cut your costs. Let's book a call. This is what I'm going to need from you. And there's no cost to doing this. The worst case scenario, we leave you right where you're at. You lost a half an hour of your time. But best case scenario, I can get you better coverage for a lower cost. So here's a link to go book on my calendar, and we'll just jump on a call and go through things. That's literally what the email was like. I mean, I don't have word for word, but it's something to that effect. 3 weeks booked 100% solid. And the cool thing is once we built it, the system was there. The following year, we cloned it. We tweaked a couple of things, hit publish. Put some work into it the first time, but we've now ran that 3 or 4 times. I don't remember for sure. It might be 4, but I'll just go with 3. We've ran that campaign 3 times now, built it once. The first time, it took us about 10 hours to build the whole thing out. The next 2 times, a little over an hour. And every time we've done it, her calendar was booked solid for the next 3 to 4 weeks. This is what a re-engagement campaign can do for you. Now let's talk about the third one, long-term engagement, creating clients for life. Create clients for life. Write that down. That's important because you don't want to be the fly-by-night. There are so many people in this world that are that way, and they don't even necessarily mean to be, but they're always on the, what can I sell today? What can I sell today? What can I sell today? They're not thinking about tomorrow. Now, I showed you my map earlier of my ultimate follow-up system. That campaign is designed to give you 12 to 15 months worth of content, 100% automated. Work with me for a month, and you'll have a campaign that'll literally run for over a year, automated by itself, including offers. And it just keeps repeating over and over and over again. And if you want to keep adding to it, you keep adding to it like I did, where I've got over 3 years. So that's the type of thing we want to do there. But you keep adding value, useful stuff. Most importantly, add value, useful stuff. What books do you recommend? I already talked about that a little bit. What tools do you use? I'm a technology guy. We were talking earlier about virtual camera software and Manicam and OBS and all that kind of fun stuff. I love talking geeky toys. Now, if you're using technology, you're using CRM systems, you're using video chat conferencing type of things, you're using software to talk to your VAs, project management software, all that kind of stuff. These are the kind of stuff that I could give you ideas, tools, tips, tricks, all that kind of stuff. And I can talk about it all day long. And most of my clients, they need that stuff. So they're happy to hear me talk about it because I'm giving them suggestions. Some of it, I'm an affiliate, so I make some money off of it. That's even better. But to be perfectly honest, that's not what it's about. I mean, some dad does buy my, I got a couple of things. Amazon buys me like 2 cups of coffee a year just for book recommendations. You can talk about podcasts that you've been a guest on, but you put it from a place of, this guy or this gal has this awesome show. I was honored to be a guest. I talked about this, but you really should just check out their show. It's pretty amazing. Here's a couple of other guests that they've had on it. Here's a link to my episode, and definitely subscribe so you can listen to everything else as well. So now you get a little bit of exposure out of it, but you're highlighting that person instead. Or if you have your own podcast, highlight a guest from your own podcast. I love doing that. I have a podcast. I put it on hold for a couple of years. I should be bringing it back soon when I just am not quite so crazy busy. Been busy doing all kinds of fun stuff. And I was just like, I'm not ready to go back to doing that every week yet. But with that one, I used to share the guests. I would like, you know what, this is an awesome person I had on my show. As a matter of fact, I had Bob Berg on my show. He was the author of The Go-Giver. And the cool thing was I was already talking about how amazing his book is. And then I got him on my show. So that even added more fuel to the fire, which is cool. But I made it all about him. It wasn't about me. I benefited because now they see me as the authority because I had him as a guest on my show. But if they would listen to the show, I did not make a dime. If anything, he would make something because they would go buy his book. So I'm adding the value. That's the key with it. The idea is to stay engaged. So RV Robinson's been a client of mine for many, many years. We did 52 weekly video tips for her. One video goes out every week, and it's just a tip on how to become a better speaker. It's an entire year follow-up. We built it in 2012, and it still works today. Funny thing was about a year ago when we were still actually doing live on stage events, she and I were speaking at an event together, and it was so funny because I mentioned that campaign. And she was like, you know what? That thing still works so amazing. I got like 10 people signed up today that go through that campaign. And I had people in the audience are like, you mean the video tip you sent out? Yeah, I got that one yesterday. That's awesome. Sort of done in 2012. And she's still using them. That's how powerful this stuff is. This is an investment in time. You know, you might think it's going to take a lot of time to do this. It's going to take a bit of time to do it because you got to think it through. You got to build the content, but it's so worth it because if you do it now, it'll literally save you tens and hundreds of hours down the road of content that's already awesome. You're already amazing. You already have great stuff to share. Just put it into an evergreen formula that'll work forever. So we still doing good? Give me the head bob. Doing good? All right. So we want to think evergreen with this. It needs to work when you don't or can't. This is critical. Oh, I love this. Nora just posted in here. She gets RV's 52 tips. There we go. There's a great example of it. She is on RV's list. Okay. Small world. I love it. Okay, just think evergreen. You need to make this work when you can't. So here's a little bit of backstory for me. March 19th, 2013, I wake up, gonna start my day. It's a Tuesday. I go downstairs, have my breakfast, get my coffee, all that kind of fun stuff. I come upstairs and my daughter's getting ready to go to work. So I say goodbye to her, torment her before she goes out the door, go into my office, and all of a sudden I'm starting, and it's this office that I'm actually in right now. And all of a sudden I start feeling like this weird pain in my side. And I'm just like, okay, maybe I'm just getting a little bit older. Something's weird going on, no big deal. And then an hour or so later, it didn't stop. And it kept going and kept going. And it got worse. And I finally got to the point where I was nauseous. I was sick. I thought maybe I was catching some kind of flu. And I don't get sick very often. So when somebody mentions the flu, I'm like, this is what it sounded like, or this is what it felt like. So I must have the flu. So I was stubborn. And it wasn't until about 5 o'clock that night that I finally was like, this is not the flu. And I ended up going to the emergency room. And they found out that I had a blood clot going to my kidney. Now, if you've ever experienced something like that, it is extremely painful. I don't recommend it any way, shape, or form. I ended up being in the hospital. They put me on a heavy dose of blood thinners. This is where I learned that the max dose of morphine lasts exactly 18 minutes on me. It's supposed to last 4 hours. And I spent the next 5 days on massive pain, not sleeping at all. And then at the end of that time, the doctor says, okay, well, the good news is we're not going to do surgery and remove your kidney. But you are going to need to have some bed rest. You're going to need some time to recover from this. I'm like, all right, you didn't like do anything bad. So we're good. What do I need? Couple days? She's like, no, it's going to take a month. And I was like, yeah, right, whatever. I don't got that kind of time. Doctor was right. I was wrong. It took me 3 weeks before I could even get out of the bed to go downstairs. I could get out of the bed. I could use the restroom. That was about the extent of it. I could not walk any further than that. I was in so much pain. And I had no energy. My business shut down for an entire month because of this. I had been set to have my biggest month ever when this happened. Those clients had to go somewhere else. I mean, I can't blame them for that. They're like, I feel for you, Eli. I'm sorry, but the work has to get done. And I lost clients because of it. We went from the best month to the worst month just like that. Because my entire business was based on me coming to work every single day and doing every step. You got to get out of that. Automate what you can, delegate what you can't. So your amount of time required is minimal. That doesn't mean you don't work. You can still do what you do best and what you love doing, but set it up so you don't have to do very much. That's when I learned how powerful this stuff is. Most recently, back in the end, it was like the last day of September of 2020. My partner ended up going into the emergency room because she had headaches that didn't go away. Now, I don't know if you're familiar, if you remember from the news, but in Portland, we had a whole bunch of fires going on, and everybody had a migraine because the smoke was so bad. I mean, it was to the point of almost evacuation where we were at. But a week later, after it all kind of cleared up, the headaches never went away. She finally went in, and luckily, going into an emergency room, doctor paid attention and ended up finding a lemon-sized tumor in her head. She had emergency brain surgery. She had completely, like, the next month was recovering of just being able to get up, walk around, do basic stuff. She's lost part of her sight. During that entire time, then she actually passed that. She had to go through radiation and chemo. That pretty much took us out from all of October, November, and December. She was finally to the point of functioning about Christmas time, which, of course, nobody's doing anything on Christmas time. So we had 3 months where the best case scenario, I was lucky to get an hour's worth of work done a day because I was taking care of her. These kind of systems help you get that kind of flexibility to be able to do that. That's why this stuff is so powerful. That's why I encourage you to do it so much, because that's what changes. It's going to make your life easier. For right now, do the work, put it in place, get it going. You're going to realize you can make a lot of money and really not work very hard because you let the tools work for you. But when that kind of situation runs upon you, it helps a little bit to know that your business isn't completely shut down. Maybe not be able to do everything, but you know you're not going to just disappear and go dark completely. Things will still happen. So has this been good stuff? Let's go ahead and unmute yourselves. Go ahead and unmute yourselves. I'd love to hear thoughts, ideas, feedback, any of that kind of stuff as we go through this.
I've been trying to put campaigns together for years, and it's,
Okay.
you know, I saw that flow chart and I start getting dizzy. And I know Lisa, you know, we're both Kartra buddies.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it's hard, you know, I'm an accountant. I do everything linear.
Yeah.
And I'm still having a problem. Like, okay, I send them this email, and if they do this, they're going to go here. Or I send, you know what I mean? It gets really.
That's where having a map and a flow really works. And that is actually, I would love to chat with you because that is what we do with our clients. We actually help, we give you the map. So literally your job is to fill in the blanks and put it in place. It's that easy. We have a lot of fun with it, but that's the key with it is you do have to have the flow. You have to know where you want to have happen before you ever log in. If you log in and try to build it right there, you'll drop the ball. It will confuse you and get frustrating.
So I'll give you an example. Like somebody might contact me, they're interested in bookkeeping, right? Okay, you know, we engage, we talk, and then they disappear.
Yeah. Yep.
Or another situation is I had a client that paid me a year in advance for bookkeeping, never gave us anything, and then disappeared. And then he just came back again. He was like, oh, now I'm ready.
You know, the funny thing is that
it drives us crazy. We have
it will drive you crazy. The nice thing to know about it though is that if you have the systems in place to stay in touch and follow up, you can build stuff in to help that. It's not going to alleviate all the way. Some people, I have one client right now, he's a fairly recent one, love him to death, but the guy is literally, he is about as squirrel as it gets. and he's not done the work. It's definitely not because of me, because I have called him, I've texted him, I have emailed him, both automated and manually, of all this stuff. He still doesn't show up. He knows it's on him. So you're going to run into some of those. The idea is to eliminate as much as possible. So does that help? So I will.
But I want to, I want to get it. So maybe I'm just making it too complicated. Maybe I got to dumb it down and do a very simple one.
Yeah, well, let's I'll give you my contact information. Let's have a chat.
Yeah, Joe, you're making it too hard. Simplify it. Make it simple. Easy.
Yeah, make it simple.
What a surprise. I overcomplicate this.
All right. How much time do I have, Tim? It's like 5 till. Okay,
Can I ask a quick question before you move on?
Yes. Yep.
So the thing about this long-term engagement campaign is that when you have in there an offer, and they click on the offer, then they go into another campaign. So, and then if over the next, then they go into another campaign. So after a while, now they're getting 17 emails every week.
Not if they do it right.
So that's my question is like,
you can do this. This is, again, this is the stuff that we actually, we go deep with this with our clients on that kind of thing, because we think through those kind of scenarios. Because you're right. I mean, I get it on people's list, and it's amazing me that all of a sudden I'm getting 5 emails the same day of 5 different products, and it annoys the hell out of me.
Yeah, Ted McGrath.
Yeah,
one,
you
Ted
can.
McGrath.
Yeah. Wasn't going to name any names, but since you did.
Sorry. I did.
But there are ways to catch that. There are ways to structure it so they come in and out in order to ensure they're only in one place at a time. There are ways to do that. Okay. It's a thought process in how you do it. We teach you the methodology, the idea of it. And then, for you, I know you're using Kartra, so I don't know exactly how it would work in their platform. If you were using Keep, that's a piece of cake because we know it. Yeah. But the idea should be the same. So if I can teach you that, and that's more than we have time to do today,
right?
But if I teach you that, the methodology of it, of how to think about it, then what you do is you map it out, you go to them and say, okay, I'm trying to make this happen, help me. And they can probably help you with that nugget, essentially.
Cool.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So I know we only have just a couple of minutes left here. So let me finish up here. This is a quote I came up with years ago, and I've always lived by this. A plan poorly implemented is better than no plan at all. Before you do anything, any event, any new program, any speaking engagement, any of that kind of stuff, plan out what are the steps. Go back to the 3 magical words, next logical step. Put that in place first, because it will be like, aha, the clouds will open up. You will see sunshine. You will hear angels singing, because then you realize, wait a minute, this will work. And the cool thing is, once you build it once, it'll work forever. I have campaigns. I have automated webinars that have ran for 6 and 7 years. I don't even remember the content. I don't remember what that program was. I know what it sells at the end, because I always have to keep track of that, because if I stop selling it, then I have to go back and change stuff to reflect that. But the idea is you put it in place and just let it work. Okay. So final thoughts with this. I hope you enjoyed this. I appreciate you guys asking me to basically kind of run the show for the whole time. That means a lot to me. I really appreciate that. I'm not going to be able to be here tomorrow because I've got, my wonderful pups have an appointment that they have to go to. So I'll be doing that instead. But I love this kind of stuff. I have a lot of fun with it. And most importantly here, let's just go to the last one. If you want to connect with me, go to connectwitheli.com. You're going to find out all the stuff about me. You can get a copy of my blueprint if you want. You can learn more. There's some videos. All my social media stuff is there. My contact information is there. And when you get there, and this is a mobile friendly site. So when you scroll down to the bottom, there's even a spot you can book on my calendar. I call it just a chat. Not a pressure, not a sales pitch. We'll have a cool conversation. I'll see what I can do to help you out in any way, shape, or form. whether it has to do with my products or not. If I think that it's a good fit, we can have that conversation. And if you're open to having that conversation, we'll talk about it. If not, that's okay too. I guarantee you're going to walk away with at least one resource. Most people walk away with 5 or 6 because I talk a lot and I love sharing this stuff. I have a lot of fun with it, but it's not a pressure kind of situation. I want to get to know you because I like meeting cool people. And if you're here, you're definitely going to be cool people because Tim only allows cool people around him. And so that's what it's about. Connect with me, reach out. If you connect with me on any of the social media sites, do me a big favor, hit the connect and then send me a message. Say, hey, I saw you on Tim's thing, because that makes you stand out. I get 10 to 15 friend requests every single day and I don't get to them every day. But if somebody sends me a message to go with it, that one I will get to as quickly as possible. With that,
I'm special. I
because you are special, my friend. But that really is it. Connect with me, book a call to chat with me. Let's just have some fun. I geek out on this stuff all day long, and I know one way or another, even if it's just a little tip here or there, or if you do decide to work with me, that would be awesome. But either way, I'm going to do what I can to make your life easier because I love this stuff. I love having fun with it. And I love seeing what I can do to help people kind of take some of the frustration out of their lives. So with that, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Tim, thank you for having me. It means the world to me.
Yeah.
And that's all I got.
all right. I hit the stop share button on your end there. I'm gonna.
Are you putting your, I'm sorry, I missed that. How do we get in touch with you?
Put your contact information in the chat
put
for
my
me if you
contact,
would,
okay.
Eli. So
Yep. I will put that in the chat. So give me just one sec here.
Okay.
So Eli, in our conversation last night, there was one thing I thought in the geeky world that I didn't ask you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you play any online games?
Not really.
No,
I'm
okay.
not an online gamer. I actually do D&D. I think I told you we just went to Iowa for a Ren Fair.
For Ren
That
Fair,
was so much fun. And then literally at every night after we left the fair, we went back to the hotel room and basically played games all night. Lots of fun. I used to play more online games, but then I just got out of it. They're okay. They're fun. I don't have a problem with them. Just
my 2 brothers and I started playing Forge of Empires.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, so it's like the fact that I'm playing with my brothers. One of them is in California and the other one is in New Zealand, and we're playing an online game together.
See, and that's what makes it so awesome that you can do that. You know, years and years ago when I did do some gaming, before all of this, I worked for a small computer tech shop, and we used to play games like Age of Empires, and there were a couple of first-person shooter kind of things that we used to play back then. But it was fun because I actually have a friend that I talk to every month he's outside of Ottawa, Canada, that I met in the gaming community back then. Now, I don't game anymore. He still does. He has no job, so he gets to game all day. But we still talk on a regular basis. He's a friend that I made back over, over 20 years ago.
Wow.
And so it's cool. We live in a world where technology is amazing. We can connect with people all day long, anywhere in the world. It's not uncommon for me to have conversations with 3 people on 3 different continents in the same day.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. And that's where use the technology for what it's there for. So you can spend more time doing this stuff, have the conversations, getting to know people, meeting cool people.
Cool.
And that's really what it's about.
Cool. So here, I'm going to stop.